Hi, my name is Mina. Welcome to the Knitting Expat. This is episode 64. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today is the 1st of June. Yay! 1st of June. Summer's almost here. Well, it's already here. But how is it June already? Like this year is just flying by. Honestly, I don't think any year has gone as fast as this one has. But anyway, hi, my name is Mina. Don't know if I said my name or not. I'm coming to you from my home in Bahrain. If you are new, thank you so much for checking me out. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to hang out with me. I know there are so many podcasts out there, and they're all amazing. So thank you so much for taking the time to spend some time with me. And Hugo just walked in. Hugo is one of my two cats. He is the more, podcast friendly cat of the two. Derek is a little bit more camera shy, and he's usually sleeping around now anyway, so he doesn't usually make an appearance on the podcast. And Hugo is eyeing up his options. I think he may jump up in a second. I'll push my chair back for him so he can get onto my lap if he wants to come up. Anyway, I will get started and get right into it. I wanted to say a massive thank you to everyone who left me a comment last week or sent me a private message or left me a comment on Instagram, all of those sort of places, on YouTube. Thank you to everyone. I know I haven't replied to everyone's comments yet, but thank you to everyone who did. I really appreciated your sweet messages and your sweet comments about what happened at the embassy, at the US embassy last week. It was sorry, my allergies are going, so I'm a little bit sniffly. Oh, and here he is. At the US Embassy last week, where it wasn't the most pleasant of experiences, let's say. I went back and I got my passport yesterday. It was all fine. I didn't see the guy again. He wasn't there. But it's fine. Honestly, I think it's not nice to go through, but honestly, I think he genuinely thought he was just being funny and cracking a joke, but I don't think he really... And he didn't. Clearly, he didn't realise what he was making a joke about and how it could come across. I just realised now Hugo's completely invisible off camera when he sits down on my lap, but it's okay. He's down here. I'm sure he'll make his presence known. And I can't really adjust my camera at the moment because my tripod's not working, so it's leaning up on some stuff. So I can't really change it. But yeah, okay, we will move on to coupon codes. We have quite a few coupon codes for you guys this week, or I do anyways. We've been generously given several coupon codes. So the first up is for Eternity Ranch Knits, and that is the lovely Tammy. And her coupon code is Expat Socks 2016, and I'll have it come up on the screen here for you guys. And that gives you 15% off of your order at checkout until the 11th of June. So you have about 10 days left to use that one. Debbie from the Never Cast Off podcast has a coupon code KEP30, and that gives you 30% off any of her patterns in her Ravelry shop until the 30th of June, and that should come up here as well. Then Heidi, who is who has the Packy Knits design shop on Etsy. She has given us a coupon code and the coupon code is expat16, all capitals, and that gives you 16% off of your order until the 30th of June from her Etsy shop. She has some hand-dyed yarns, she sews, I think there's some like DPNs and DPN cozies and stuff like that in her Etsy shop as well. So make sure you go and check that out. Then we have the last one is Renee of East London Knit. She's East London Knit on Ravelry, and she's a very prolific designer. She designs some beautiful, beautiful things, and she's given us a coupon code for 2 weeks. It's ELK Expat, and that gives you 20% off of any individual pattern from her shop for 2 weeks. So until the 14th of June. And she's actually gifted me or sent me her latest pattern collection of sweaters and cardigans, and I'll be reviewing that later in this episode. So look forward to that, and make sure you go and check out her Ravelry shop as well. She has some beautiful designs, not just garments, but also like shawls and other things as well. So make sure you go and check that out. Okay, so for this week, the format will be. I'll be talking about some finished objects first, then I'll do my May month knitting review, WIPs and soon-to-be WIPs, acquisitions, knit along giveaway news. There's some prizes that are being announced this week, so make sure you stay tuned for that if you took part in the Expat Yarn KAL. I'll be doing the review of Renee's latest collection, and then with Q&A, Bahrain, Middle East life, and then a bit of a weekly roundup or week in review. So yeah, that's the general format for this week. We will start with finished objects. So the first finished object that I have, which I'm not going to show you, is the design shawl that I've been working on. I finished that and it's all blocked and everything, and I'm just waiting for the so all three of the designs that I was working on for that collaboration are now done. I need to get started on writing them up and then the yarn should be, the yarn support yarn for the actual pattern should be on its way to me soon, so I'll be able to knit up the pattern samples and then get it out to testers and stuff like that. Then the next finished object I have is one that I'm wearing. It's my Markley sweater, or a jumper, whatever you want to call it, pullover, and I absolutely love how it's turned out. It is perfect. It's nice and oversized, so you can see like that's where my body is and that's how big this is. Yeah, I love it. I love the fit. It's really lovely. It's just squishy and soft, and the yarn is Plucky Primo fingering. So that's their 75, 20 and 5. So 75 merino, 20% cashmere, 5% nylon, I believe is the mix for this one. And the colour is Gilded Age. I used up all 4 skeins of my yarn for this. I literally only had some tiny scraps left, which became, is it here? Yeah, that was all I had left, which has gone into my knitting journal. And yeah, crazy how much yarn this year. Well, not crazy. I knew it was going to use a lot of yarn, but the thing was, according to the pattern, I should have had 100 meters-ish more yarn than I needed for this size. But I actually knit the garment 2 inches longer, which used up more of the yarn. So what I ended up doing was, Hugo wouldn't mind me turning around so you can see, there's a horizontal braid design feature in the pattern, which I decided to do in this sort of dark charcoal grey, and this is a Patterns Croy sock yarn in Gentry Grey, I believe it's called, and thankfully had quite a bit of that left over. So when I got to about here on the sleeves, I had like 5 grams of yarn left, and both sleeves were at the same point, and I was just like, they're not going to be long enough. I tried them on at that point and the sleeves weren't long enough, so I finished up whatever I had, and then I switched to the grey and I started the ribbing, and I did the ribbing quite a bit longer than the pattern called for, so it gets to the length that I like for my sleeves. And even then, once I had finished blocking, the sleeve was like this length, which I was like, okay, that's fine, that's a good length, I can live with that length sleeve. But then once I blocked it, it sort of blocked out to the perfect length, and for me to like the base of my fingers is like the perfect sleeve length for me, because it's nice to be able to squish up into it, but it's also, you can just pull it down a bit and it's out of the way. But yeah, I like my sleeves to be long. I've talked about this before, so after a lifetime of not having garments that fit me correctly, that are too short in the sleeves or too short in the body or too short in the legs, I tend to overcompensate now when I knit, and I make my sleeves extra long and the body longer and the legs of whatever I'm sewing longer if I'm doing trousers. But so yeah, that's just one of the things that I do. I like the sleeves long. Yeah, I think that's about it really. I don't have anything else to say. It's a really fun, really easy to knit. The pattern is very well laid out. It makes really good sense. Like everything, it's easy to follow instructions. And I love the layout of Elizabeth's pattern. So I didn't say the pattern is by Elizabeth Doherty. And yeah, it's really, really fun. Definitely something I would consider knitting again in the future. And it's just really fun. And like I said, it's because when it blocked out, I actually did stretch it out a little bit when blocking to make it a bit longer, because I really wanted this to be a long sort of tunic length. And that's exactly what it is. It's almost what I would call dress length, like not dress length. It's almost like tunic length almost long enough to wear with just leggings underneath rather than trousers, if that makes sense. So I have a pair of really thick leggings that are basically trousers. So I would probably wear that with this, and those are black as well, so it would go really well with the dark grey. And at the moment, I'm just wearing a tank top underneath. I have the AC on, and hopefully you can't hear it. I try and get rid of the background noise in editing, but I can sit here quite comfortably wearing this with the AC on. And I have a Hugo on my lap, and he's a little radiator. So yeah, all going well so far. I'm really enjoying it, and I'll probably keep wearing this episode until I overheat, if that happens. Hopefully it won't. Next up, I have the hat design that I've been working on, and I've decided to call this the Shire Stones because it's the Shire colourway, and it's like based on my cobblestones sock pattern. And I don't know, I quite like the name. I may change it, but for now it's Shire Stones. And yeah, so you can see where it's been joined. It's seamless. How it's been joined into the brim. Basically, it's been sealed. And yeah, you can see it's a really nice squishy fit. And so this one was knit out of a Madeline Tosh vintage in the Shire colourway. I really love how this fits and how it looks. I love the colours. It's so squishy. And yeah, it's really soft and soft and squishy, and I love it. This is the first version that I'd knit out of the yarn I had left over after I knit my brownstone sweater. This one I blocked, and you can see how the ribbing lays flat and everything on this one. And this one I haven't blocked, and I probably won't block, just because you can, they're the same size that I knit up, but you can see the difference between the blocked and the unblocked version. The ribbing is stretched out a bit, and everything lays out. It's fine if that's the look that you want, and obviously the pattern shows up really nicely once it's blocked. But the pattern still shows up really nicely in the unblocked version. And when you're wearing it, your head kind of blocks it out anyway to your size. So I don't really feel like it needs blocking. And like I mentioned last time when I showed the first version, the whole point of this hat was to have the folded over brim. So you have the double thickness on your ears and on the forehead and your back of your neck to keep you nice and warm in the winter. And the reason why I seamed it, I say seamed it, it's knit together as you go, so there's no seaming afterwards, is because with a folded up brim, I'm always worried about, is it folded up too high? Is it folded up? Does it look okay? Is it even all around? This way, you get the thickness of a folded brim without having to worry about all of that. And yeah, I'm really liking how it's looking at how it's turned out, and I like the crown decreases. I was going to do the crown decreases in pattern, but frankly, the decreasing that I use is quite a rapid decrease at the top, so it doesn't. It wouldn't work to have the patterning going into the decreases. It would just be decreased out too quickly to even show up. I did do it on this one, but you really can't tell much of a difference between this crown and this one in terms of the decreases. And it just makes it a little bit more complicated to do it that way. This is simpler. So yeah, I'm really loving how it's turned out. Like you can see, it doesn't look like that big of a hat. Like this is quite squished in together, but it is super stretchy, so it will fit pretty much any size adult head. You can see how much that's squished in that. Yeah, it's really big. It will stretch really big. And this is I say slightly slouchy, but a very minimal slouch. Depends on how you wear it. If you wear it higher up on the back of your head, you get a bit more slouch, but if you wear it like I do over the forehead, it's got less slouch. But there is enough space in this hat that when my hair is up in a bun on the back of my head, this hat still fits and covers all of my face, the side of my face and my ears and everything. And there's the picture on the project page for this one, which shows me wearing it with my hair up. It's just a quick picture I just snapped, but it was with my hair up and you can see that it still covers my head perfectly. There are instructions in the pattern if you don't want it to have slouch at all, like you want it to be a nice fitted beanie, you just do a couple of less repeats. But this took almost the entire skein of Macintosh yarn. There was, I think, less than a yard or about a yard of yarn left. So you definitely need a full 100 gram or a full skein of worsted weight yarn. Macintosh skeins are a little bit heavier, so this was 115 grams of worsted weight yarn, but it's only 182 meters or 200-ish yards, I think. So I think you need a minimum, I would say 200 meters to be safe, unless you're going to do a slightly more fitted version. And I've also included a smaller size in the pattern for a child or young adult, although to be honest I think this would fit most children as well, because children don't have that tiny a head. But I have included a smaller size, which would again still fit most sort of young children up to like teenagers and stuff. I still need to test that size, but I have written up the pattern and I will be contacting a few people for testing later this week, hopefully. And then, who knows, this pattern will be out soon, I hope. So that's the not cobblestones, Shirestone's hat. That's what I'm calling it. Okay, it's starting to warm up now. I think it's Hugo on my lap is causing me to heat up a little bit. Next finished object, I think it's the last one, is a pair of socks. Ta-da! These are the socks that I knit from the sock blank from Kelsey of the Primrose Yarn Company. I don't think I realised this, or maybe I knew this and I just hadn't got around to watching it yet, but Kelsey has a podcast called Wool in the Wardrobe, so make sure you go check her out. It's on my list. I'm checking it out later today. My watch later list finally got to 0 yesterday on YouTube. It's been a while since I managed to get through all the podcasts and catch up with everyone, so I'm going to check out a few new ones today, and Kelsey's definitely one that's on the list. I don't know why or how I didn't realise she had a podcast. Maybe I did and I just hadn't checked it out and then I forgot and now I remembered. I don't know. Check it out if you're looking for a new podcast. I just love this little flash here. So this is just my plain vanilla sock pattern. Mina's Stitch Time Socks, which is a free download on Ravelry. I did a 2x2 rib, just plain cuff, the German short row heel, and just the foot and toe decreases, nice and simple. And yeah, last pair of socks for May. I really like this yarn. It's turned out really nice. What I did realise though with sock blank is that my tension is a lot tighter. Because the yarn is all kinked up, I pull the yarn quite a bit tighter. I tension it tighter to get it to be straight when I'm actually knitting with it, so I don't end up with loose stitches. But what that meant was that my stitches had tightened up by about half a stitch per inch tighter, which doesn't sound like much, but when you figure it out over the stitch count of the sock, it does tighten it up quite a bit, especially considering I already knit my socks with quite a lot of negative ease. So they are a little bit tight at the top around the ribbing, especially because these are quite a long leg. But I haven't tried them on since blocking them, but they should fit now. And if they don't, I'll give them to a friend who I know will love them. But I hope they fit now. I have to try them on because I really love those socks. And I'd like to keep them. Right, so Hugo has now left me. They've managed to readjust to a more comfortable position. And right, so now we will dive straight into the May month knitting review. I do this at the end of each month. I sort of just review on the podcast really quickly what I've done during that month. You guys seem to like that. And yeah, a bit of a knitting stats update. So in the month of May, I managed to knit 1 sweater, which is what I'm wearing, 4 pairs of socks, and that's 58 pairs total so far this year, 3 shawls, 1 hat, and 2 cushions. So that's 10 actual projects, the cushions counting as 1 project. And I knit a total of 8 squares on my blanket this month. I will show you that in a second. So that's 10 projects total, like I said, plus the blanket. I used 23 skeins of yarn out of stash, and that's not to say that I used 100% of those yarns. It's just the skeins have been used and the leftovers are now considered scraps, and I don't consider scraps as part of my stash. So that's 23 skeins used and 14 skeins came in last month. So doing good for the month of May. I am down by 9 skeins. All good. However, I'm still up by 30 skeins compared to how many skeins of yarn I had in my stash last year. So I'm working on it. I'm getting it down, and I am hopefully going to get below that number and have less skeins in my stash than I did last year by the end of this year. We will see how this goes. We still have the summer coming up. I have knit, and this is actual grams and meters that have been knit into projects, not the total quantity of each skein. So I've knit 1,668 grams of yarn, and that translates to 6,009 meters of yarn knit. So that's 6 kilometers of yarn in a month. That was a lot. That was quite a sizable amount. I think the sweater and the cushions, because the cushions ate up a lot of yarn, that was fingering helped double. So that did eat up quite a bit of yarn. So yeah, quite happy with that actually. It was good to get quite a bit of stash. And the yarns that I used for the cushions was Knit Picks palette, and that was yarn that had been sat in my stash for over a year, and I was really glad to get that out. It was something I really wanted to use, and it was just sort of nagging at me. So I'm really glad I did. Right, so moving on to WIPs. I will first show you my blanket, because this is the only, I guess, real-ish WIP to talk about. And so this one, I have added 8 squares to the blanket, and it's these 8 rainbow squares, sort of rainbow set here. Really fun, bright pop colour. I really like that, and I wanted these 8 to be next to each other because they're rainbow. I was originally going to put the pink one up here, but then I realised it was going to be a very sort of red-pink shape thing, and I didn't want that, so I popped the purple in and put the pink down here. But I'm really liking how this turned out. I still have the rest of this sort of segment-ish, 6 squares by 4 to fill in, but it's getting there. It's getting there. I am now officially at 200 squares on my blanket. It is getting there, and I have by my calculations, I hope you can still hear me whilst I'm showing this. I have another 120 squares to go before it's done. So we are over halfway. We're about 2/3, almost 2/3 of the way through, and yeah, I am so excited to get working on this some more. And I have an idea for a different sort of cozy memories blanket style project. I need to swatch and see how it works, and if it works, and how easy it is. And it's a more modular version of a cozy memories blanket. And I was sort of thinking about it. It's not quite like the monthly one that some people are doing, where you do like blocks of like 9 or 16 squares and then seam them together. But it's still modular in the sense that there will be some seaming, but not a lot. But it's to make it a more portable project. So when I travel, I can't really knit on my Cozy Memories blanket because that's a big project to lug around with me. But it would be nice to have a smaller or more modular version so I can knit a section when I go away. I can take some minis with me for that. Sorry, my allergies are really acting up. My nose is all tickly. So I'm thinking about something like that. I may have to give that a go because it'd be nice to have something I can knit on for my blanket or for a blanket when I'm away over the summer. And next, what I have to show you are soon-to-be WIPs, because today's the 1st of June, and as you guys know, it's something I've been trying out this year so far. So far it's been going well, but I've been trying to clear my needles at the end of each month, so I have nothing left active on my needles at the end of the month, and that usually leaves me with 1 or 2 days with nothing to knit, so I use that time to knit on my Cozy Memories blanket and plan projects for the next month. So I don't actually have anything on the needles at the moment, but I will show you some swatches that I've done and what I'm planning on knitting. So first up, the socks that I'm planning on knitting this month. First up, I try to always keep a plain vanilla pair of socks on the needles for when we go to the cinema. So this is one I'm going to be starting hopefully today or tomorrow. and at least getting the cuffs done, because I think we're going to be going to the cinema this weekend at some point. So I want to have some socks ready for that. And this is in my Doctor Who bag, and you'll know why in a second, because the yarn is a Doctor Who yarn. And if you don't know what this is yarn by the Yarn Tree. That's lovely Mel in the UK, and this is her 75-25 merino nylon sock yarn, and it's in the Vincent and the Doctor colourway. And this is one of the first, it's not the first, but one of the first hand-dyed yarns that I bought from Mel. And this is one I've been sort of hoarding in my stash and been wanting to knit up, but just been waiting for the right time. And I just thought, well, why not knit it? And what I'm trying to do is, a lot of the things that I'm knitting at the moment, or that are coming up that I'm going to be knitting, are from our new stash, or new yarns that I got this year. Either it's because I'm designing with yarns that people have sent me, or for whatever reasons. But I also want to try to use as much yarn from my old stash that I had in my cupboard at the end of last year, to kind of balance it out a little bit and give some of my old yarn some love. So this is from Old Stash. I got this in May last year, so that's going to be just plain vanilla socks, 2 at a time, my standard formula. Then next up, in another one of my project bags, the Japanese cats, this is going to be a design pair of socks. So this is new yarn, and this is by Swatch This Fibre Arts. I showed this to you a couple months ago now, and this is that's Deanna, and she has a Skeins and Schools podcast as well. And this is on her Madeline Fingering High Twist. It's a BFL nylon base, and the colourway is Crenshaw. So all of her colourways are based off of like children's books and literature, which is really, really fun. And I love these colours. Purples and greens and blues. And I love knitting socks out of BFL. So love this, and it's really quite soft. I mean, a lot of people say BFL yarns can be scratchy. I don't think BFL yarn is scratchy at all. It's sturdy, and it can be soft. It is soft. It's not as soft as merino. So if you're comparing to merino, yeah, BFL is scratchy, but it's not scratchy compared to a lot of other yarn and a lot of other wools. So anyway, so this is going to be a design part of Beyond Vanilla Socks Part 2. I have actually already knit the other 3 samples for that collection. There's going to be another 4 patterns in that collection. So once I've knit this one up, I'm going to write up the patterns and get it out to testers, because I think I want all these 4 patterns actually tested, because these 4 patterns use, 3 out of 4 of them anyway. I think it's, 3 out of 4 of them, maybe the 4th one as well, I can't remember now, but they use slip stitches and twisted stitches in them, and that really affects the size of the finished sock because of the way that tightens up the fabric. So I'm having to play around with the sizing on these ones, and they're going to be non-standard sizing in terms of stitch counts. Well, they might be standard, but they might be slightly. So anyway, point is, there's going to be something slightly different with these, and I will probably get them tested, each pattern tested by a couple of people, just to ensure that they work and the sizing is okay. And hopefully these will be out around the middle of summer. I'm imagining at the moment, because of how crazy July is going to be. It depends on how quick the testers are, really. I think that's how it's going to be. And I'm still going to be knitting up a second sample of each sock. It's just going to wait and see to see how that works out in terms of timings and stuff. So my plan at the moment is to get that one knit up and hopefully get the patterns out to testers sometime around the middle of this month. And then depending on how quick they are with the knitting, I may or may not be able to get the second collection released before I go back to the UK for the summer. Otherwise it'll be whilst I'm away. So we will see. Point is, I don't know yet. We will see how it goes. So those are 3 sock projects that, there's only 2. I was going to show you the 3rd one. Too many things. And this is in one of my the only Fawn on the Fox project bag that I have. I know she's got new labels now, but I really like the logos she had on these ones. And this is the Socks That Rock that I showed you guys a couple of weeks ago. and this is in the Crazy Lace Agate colourway, which I really, really love. This is another old skein from Stash, which I got in May last year from Loop. And there's supposed to be 146 grams per skein. Mine's 156, so there's my skein was definitely heavy. And this is 100% superwash merino lightweight. And I know people say that 100% superwash merino isn't good for socks, but I have heard such good thing about Socks That Rock for socks. As a bit of a tongue twister. And plus, I have no issues knitting 100% superwash merino socks. I'll be knitting these on 2.25s, so they'll be nice and dense. So I think that's the only thing that I've really heard about with superwash. So 100% superwash merino for socks is that you need to knit them at a tight gauge. So that's what I'll be doing with that. And those will be cobblestone socks. Forgot to mention cobblestone socks as part of the Beyond Vanilla Socks Knit Along Part 1. I thought I really have to take part in my own knit along, right? It'd be rude not to. Right, okay. And then in this lovely project bag, which was given to me by Sarah from the Reluctant Sisters podcast, she gave this to me when we met up in New York for the first time, September last year. In here, I have a project. I know I said that I was going to be doing a words. That's it. A shawl for each of my friends as presents this year. So this is going to be one of those. So one of my friends said she really likes magenta and blue together. So magenta and blue together. What do you think? Sorry, I know it's me being a bit silly. So this is actually a good mix of old and new yarn. So this is old yarn. This is Baby Long Legs, which I got as part of a swap that I did last year, again in May last year. And this is on the semi-precious base, 50% silk, 50% superwash merino, in the raspberries and cream colourway. And this is really soft, really squishy yarn, really bright sort of magenta, sort of raspberry pink. And then this is I Heart BFL sock by Palouse Yarn Company, and this is a BFL nylon blend. That's the tag, and this was sent to me by a lovely viewer a few weeks ago, which I shared on the podcast. And these were going to be socks for Perry, but he wasn't 100% on the colour, so I thought rather than making him socks that he may or may not like, I'm going to knit them into something for a friend of mine, and I know she'll like it. And this is in the Blue Canyon colourway. Forgot to mention that. So these two are going to go together, and they are going to become a Daybreak shawl. It's a Daybreak shawl pattern by Stephen West. Tag here. Tag pattern. I think most of you know what this shawl looks like by now. Many people have knit this pattern. I'll find a better picture to show you. Yeah, many people have knit this pattern already, and I'll probably be doing the medium size. I need to double check the sizings on this, but probably about the medium-ish size. The friend I'm knitting this for is of average height, so I need to just double check. The small one I think might be a bit too small, but I'm not sure if the big one, the largest size, will be too large. We'll see how it goes. So yeah, that's shawl number 1. Shawl number 2 is actually no, I'll come to that last because I've got quite a bit to talk about that. My sweater for the month, my garment for the month. I'm trying to do one garment a month this year. It was originally going to be one garment every 2 months, but I seem to be going through them quite quickly. And so I was thinking, I have quite a few sweater quantities which are on this shelf here. There we go. Trying to get this angle right of yarn down there. I was trying to think what to knit next, and I had a sweater quantity, or actually it's more like a blanket quantity of Drops Baby Alpaca Silk. It's not Baby Alpaca, Drops Lace, sorry, which is a mix of Baby Alpaca and silk. It's 70% alpaca, 30% silk. And this is in colourway number 501, but it's like this light grey colour. And I have 3 skeins of it, and each skein is 800 meters. I really don't think I'm going to need 2 skeins even, so I've more than plenty. This is in a project bag that I sort of patched together last year at some point. And I swatched for it yesterday. It's my swatch. I'll come back to that in a second. But the pattern that I'm knitting is called soubrette. And the reason why I decided, it's the first time I'm knitting a lace weight garment. Reason being, I am going to 2 weddings this summer in the UK, and I thought it'd be really nice to have something that I've knit myself to wear at the wedding if it gets a little bit chilly, or an alpaca is notorious for being really warm, and I thought so lace weight alpaca will be the perfect blend. So it'll be lightweight, it'll be airy, but it will also be warm at the same time, and it'll be perfect to throw on over a dress at a wedding. And I really like the shape and silhouette of this cardigan. It's nice and flowy. It's kind of got a little hourglass sort of shape to it at the bottom here, where it flares out. I will probably knit the sleeves a little bit longer. Cutting off right at the elbow is not particularly flattering for me, so I will probably do a 3/4 length sleeve on my one. This pattern comes with a lot of pages, which seems scary at first, but it is really well laid out. I sort of briefly read through it. I don't always read through patterns, but I was trying to understand the construction of this one, and at first I was reading through it, I was just like, I'm not entirely sure I understand where she's going with this. But then she has really good photo tutorials at the back, showing you step by step at the end of each section, you know, what it looks like. And I'm like, oh, okay, now I see what you're doing, and that makes more sense. So definitely really well laid out pattern, really well explained pattern. She gives lots of instructions and for modifications, if you want to make the garment longer, if you want to make it shorter, you know, where you make those changes and how you do that. So really love it. I should probably tell you who it's by. It's by Mary Annarella on Ravelry. There are quite a few patterns. I think there's less than 100 projects listed on Ravelry, but most people seem to have liked it. And yeah, it's a paid for pattern. I'm really looking forward to knitting this one up. This may end up being a 2-month project, depending on what other commitments and stuff come along this month. But that's okay. It's a lace weight. I'm pretty sure that's... I'm kind of expecting this one to take me longer, so this may be one project that crosses over to next month. We will see. But yeah, like I said, I have two weddings over the summer that I'm going to, and I was thinking about knitting a shawl, but I don't know what dress I'm going to wear yet. I don't know if I'm wearing one that I already have, or if I have to go buy a dress yet. So that's one reason, and I think a grey pretty much goes with most things. And the other reason I'll probably not do a shawl is because I'm going to be doing photography for both of the weddings. One is for my sister-in-law's wedding, and the other one's one of my best friends. So my sister-in-law has asked me to do more candid sort of photography around the. They've got an official photographer, but she asked if I would do candid photography around on the day, and I said that's perfectly fine. I'd be happy to do that. I've done wedding photography before in the past couple of times. And then the other one is one of my best friends. She's getting married, and they've got a very small budget, and she'd asked if I would do the photography for them for their wedding. So I said I would love to. So I want something that I can wear but not have to fuss about. So a shawl is something I'm going to have to be constantly worried about. If it's on my neck, is it going to fall off? And also because my camera strap will be around my neck, I kind of don't want too much going on around there. So I think a cardigan will be the best way to go, and it's lightweight, so even if I take it off, I can just stuff it in my bag and it won't be a problem. Right, so my swatch. I realised I forgot to talk to you about my swatch. So this is the swatch that I knit up yesterday, and now we'll just leave it to hang out over here so you can see. The pattern calls for, it's a lace weight, it's meant to be knit on lace weight yarn, but it calls for a US size 6, so a 4mm needle. I was just like, that's going to be really gappy for a lace weight cardigan. And you can see this bottom section here, and you can see how much wider it is than this top section. So this bottom section was knit on a US 6, so 4mm. And you can see I didn't knit very far because I was like, I'm not enjoying this. This is not fun. This is not a nice fabric. So I did a couple of garter rows here and then switched to a US 3, which is 3.25mm needle. And this is a much nicer fabric. It's still light, it's still airy, but it's just not as gappy as this one down here. Hold it up close so you can get an idea of what I mean. Let me see if I can find it. So hopefully you can see that. It might not be as clear on camera, but it's really obvious in person that the top one is a much nicer fabric than the bottom one. And actually, I got gauge. with 3.25mm needles. So it goes to show that, you don't always have the same gauge as the designer with the same size needles. So it's always worth checking gauge, especially for a garment. So I'm looking forward to knitting that one soon. And the pattern actually suggests picking a size based on your full bust measurement rather than your upper bust measurement. Most patterns, most garments, and I've always advised this as well, is if you're knitting a garment, you pick your size based on your upper bust measurement. Obviously, unless the designer tells you otherwise, because they've taken something else into consideration with their sizing. So I'll be knitting based off of my full bust measurement, so I'll be knitting the 41-inch size for this one. It's an open front cardigan, so a little bit of difference in sizing. It's not going to be that big of a deal. It's not meant to close. So yeah, looking forward to getting started on that one. And the last project that I have coming up on the needles, we're talking about weddings, is a shawl for my sister-in-law for her wedding. So this is the yarn. It is by the Wool Barn. It's on her silky singles base in pink pearl. It's beautiful, soft pinks and peachy tones, which actually is perfect because I've mentioned last week, or when I showed you the yarn when it came in. This is Maya's tag, Maya the Wool Barn, and it's 70% superwash merino, 30% silk. And I asked her if she would do a custom dye job for me for this, for a colourway. And for reasons that I totally understand, she explained that she wasn't doing custom orders anymore. Totally fine, because I'm in the same boat with regards to customer orders for project bags and stuff. But she said she had these two skeins, and if I'd be interested. And on camera, on the picture she sent me, I thought they were going to be a little bit more pink than this, but I think they're actually perfect. And I think if I sent her a sample to dye up a sample of fabric or something to dye up a colourway based on, it probably still would have turned out exactly like this. So I'm really, really chuffed with that. And Maya does some beautiful work. So yesterday I knit up a swatch, and when I swatch for a design, because I'm designing the shawl, I should have probably started with that, I actually tend to design in the shape that I'm planning on doing the shawl. So in the past I haven't really shown or talked about my design process like from the very beginning. I sort of go back and talk you through it retrospectively, but I thought this time it might be a little bit fun to do it as I go along, and so I thought I would take you along with me on the design process this time around, and we will see how that goes and if you enjoy it or not and what you think. So I decided she wanted a crescent-ish shape, but I thought I'd do something a little bit different than a traditional crescent shaping on shawls. Crescent shaping I'm talking about is like my Bunny Bluebell shawl, or like the Random Act of Colour. It's the traditional 6 increases over every 2 rows and you only do the increases on the edges of a shawl, and that's pretty much the crescent shape structure. So for this one, I'm woven in the ends, but this is what I came up with as initial swatch idea. So you can see I do the increases on the edge, but I also have a couple of increases along here. So what you get are 3 distinct wedges, but they're not, there's not a sharp sort of triangle angle. And so it blocks out into a nice crescent shape. So I was just trying out a few different ideas for the body and the border. So it's going to be a garter-based shawl, so she's not going to have to worry about which side is the right side, which side is the wrong side. She can wear it either way around, and it will be perfectly fine both ways. I don't want her to have to worry about that on her wedding day. It's going to be mostly garter stitch with some eyelets thrown in the main body section. I think I'm actually going to space the eyelets out a little bit more. I think it's a little bit too dense here. It's going to be a little bit too dense, especially if it's going to have a slightly open work border. I don't want the density of the eyelets to be too distracting. It'll be too busy otherwise. So I think the eyelets will be more spaced out in the body. This is why you swatch and practice things, so you see how it's going to knit up. And then for the border, which on this one starts on this row, this bit here, I was trying out variations on eyelets and drop stitches and seeing how they work together. And I think this one's a little bit too big. little bit too much of a drop stitch and looks a little bit awkward. But this one, so this was a double drop stitch, and this one's a single drop stitch at the bottom here, and I like that one, and I like how that plays well with these eyelets in this section. So I'll probably do something on a variation with these two, and I'll probably won't use the double drop stitches in the final design. But yeah, so, and like I said, I swatch in the shape that I want to knit the shawl rather than just in a square swatch, because doing it this way not only gives me an idea of what the shape of the shawl will be like, but also gives me some practice and some ideas on how to work the increases and how to work the pattern within while incorporating the increases and things like that. And lets me work through those issues as in the swatch. And then I block it out, and like I said, it gives you an idea on how it's going to look at the end of the day. So I'm really excited now that I've done that. I have a pretty good idea of where I'm going with this. So I am looking forward to casting this on and getting it going. So I hope that was informative. If you have any questions about this and stuff like that, then please let me know. There's a questions and answers thread in the group that you are more than welcome to post any questions in, and I will answer them on the podcast. And yeah, so that is it for upcoming works in progress. It's been a slightly longer section than usual, but I have quite a few things coming up. I won't have them all cast on by next week by any stretch, but I will, at least have 3 or 4 of them cast on by next week out of the 6. Oops, sorry. And pop those out of the way. Now, and moving on to acquisitions. First up, a couple of pattern acquisitions I wanted to talk to you guys about. I was sent the lovely Squishalicious shawl by Julia of the Happy Knitting Podcast. Thank you so much, Julia. She's also offered one as a giveaway for the podcast, which I will be using for rather timely for the Expat Yarn Knit-along as one of the pattern prizes. So that will be announced later in this episode. But I really love how this pattern looks. I don't know how well you can see it on camera, but it's a really lovely textured squishy stitch with a chevron garter border and an I-cord bind off. And I've been seeing this pop up on Instagram and a couple of other podcasts who are people who are testing it. And I'm really looking forward to knitting up one of these, probably as a gift for one of my friends, part one of the shawls for that section, for that project. So I'm definitely looking forward to picking out yarns for that one. Actually, I think I have the perfect yarn in mind as well for it. So thank you so much, Julia, for that. I was also sent, Helen, the lovely Helen from Curious Handmade, sent me, so not really a copy, but a membership to the Shawl Society, which is really exciting. It was something I had seen pop up, but I hadn't had a chance to go and check it out yet. And then suddenly Helen so sweetly sent me a membership, I guess, because the patterns aren't out yet. The first one, I believe, comes out next week. And I think they come out every once a month. Is there one a month? I can't remember the details now. I did read it all, I swear. I just can't remember. And so it's her first shawl club, I believe. So she's designed 6 patterns. I think it's 6 again. I'm so sorry if I'm getting this wrong. I'll put a link in the show notes to the Shawl Society Ravelry page so you can see the details. But it looks really exciting, and I'm looking forward to seeing the patterns as they come out. And again, more shawls potentially for gift knitting for my friends or for myself even. And so yeah, exciting. So thank you so much, Helen, for that as well. Really, really sweet surprise that popped up in my inbox. And actual physical acquisitions this month. I was also gifted the pattern collection by Renee, her latest, it's called the Zen Variations cardigans collection, or jumper sweater collection that she's done for the fibre company. But as I'll be reviewing those later, I'm not going to show you those now. So the physical acquisitions for this month came from a very sweet viewer of the podcast who, size of this box, she got in touch with me a while back saying that she wanted to send me a couple of little things that she'd seen that she thought made her think of me. So I was like, okay, great, thank you so much, that's so sweet. And it's really sweet whenever someone says that. But then I was just like, this box showed up. And when I saw who it was from, I was just like, seriously, knitters are just too generous. So there was quite a bit of yarn in this package. There were 2 skeins of Malabrigo worsted, which is such a squishy, such a lovely yarn to knit with. I really love this yarn for hats especially. So this one is in the Hiroshigo colourway. It's really beautiful sort of tonals and variegated blues and greens. This would make a really nice Shy Stones hat, I think, actually, with the variegation. Sorry, it's picked up bits from the box. And there's also this lovely tonal blue in the indigo colourway. Lovely sort of indigo purple blue colour, which again would make a really lovely squishy hat. I might knit up a child size of the Shy Stones hat just to give that a try and see how big that turns out in this one. She sent me this 50-gram skein of DK weight yarn in this beautiful sort of soft heathery green colour. This is by Sulca Legato, I think. Is that how you say it? It's a blend of merino, baby alpaca, and silk. 250 meters in 50 grams. Is that DK? That's not DK, so that's fingering. Can't remember now where I got DK from. I thought it was DK, but no, it's fingering weight. 250 meters is definitely a light fingering actually, but it definitely looks like a fingering weight. But it's really lovely, squishy, very squishy, very soft. She sent me a skein of Trekking XXLs, their sock yarn, in this lovely dark purple with pops of brighter purples in it. 75% superwash and 25% polyamide. 420 meters and 100 grams, made in Germany. But yeah, looking forward to doing something with that as well. The plies on this look very interesting. It's much more loosely plied yarn than I expect for a sock yarn. So maybe probably won't use this for socks. Maybe we will see. And I forgot to show you the card she sent me. She goes to the University of Wisconsin, I believe, and so that's where the package came from. And she sent me a bunch of. She wrote me a lovely note on the back explaining everything that she sent. So I'm really looking forward to. Sorry, my words are failing me today. I'm not forming correct sentences, but this was a really fun. This is the last skein of yarn that she sent me. I say last, like this is ridiculous as it is, but this is from Holiday Yarns, and let's just see what she said about this one. So this is in the Packers colorway, which is, as she tells me, it's their local NFL football team. I have no idea about American football. I have no idea about different teams, but I like green, I like yellow, and the purple white is never a bad thing. So looking forward to knitting this up. I think she said she was inspired to put this together after I'd mentioned that I wasn't able to go to Chicago, and she wanted to send me a little something from the Midwest. She said, however, as she's from Wisconsin, she She was not able to send any Chicago or Illinois inspired things due to football rivalries. So I thought that was quite funny. But I did get a Packers yarn, which is really fun. And actually, Holiday Yarns was one of the booths that I saw at Vogue Knitting Live. And I had made a mental note to go back and get something from them because they had really fun, bright colours. But I forgot and I never managed to go back. And so I felt quite bad about that because I'd intended to. But yes, I'm really excited to have a skein of their yarn now and to give this one a go. It's quite a sturdy 75-25 nylon blend. It's not a particularly soft one, and it is merino. Yeah, superwash merino nylon, 400 yards and 100 grams. But it'll make a nice, good, sturdy pair of socks. That wasn't all she sent me. She also sent me some tea, 2 bags of tea actually. One is it's actual chamomile flowers, and there's instructions on the back on how to brew it. And this is Egyptian chamomile flowers from bioglowbotanicals.com. I'm looking forward to give that a try. And then this one is from Cream City Yarn. So it's a custom blend of tea for one of her local yarn shops. I like the SSK, Sip Sip Knit. So that was quite cute. And this is it's caffeine free. Sounds like I need some caffeine this morning. It's wellness blend, so it's a mix of lemon balm, it's catnip in this one. Catnip, maybe the boys will want some. Skullcap chamomile, linden flower, oat straw, marshmallow root. That just sounds like the best thing ever, marshmallow root. It sounds like it would be really squishy. I know it's not marshmallows, but it just sounds really fun. Rosemary, anise seed, rooibos, chrysanthemum flower, passion flower, lemon verbena, cinnamon, orange pieces, and hops. That sounds like it is packing a real punch of flavour with that one. And my nose is blocked. I don't even know why I'm trying to smell it. And she also sent me some minis as well from the blankets. Thank you so much for that. It's such a sweet package. All the squishies. So people have asked me in the past if I smell my yarn, because I squish the yarn to my face, and some people I've seen on other podcasts, actually quite a lot of people smell the yarn. I don't smell my yarn, not because I don't like the way it smells, but because frankly 90% of the time I have a blocked nose, or a slightly blocked nose, or something that impairs my smelling abilities. So smelling yarn just wouldn't work for me anyway. I wouldn't be able to smell it even if I tried. Sometimes I can if I have a clear day, but more often than not I can't smell yarn because I just can't smell much at the time. And yeah, that's anything there. So that's why I don't smell my yarn. I never got into the habit of it because I couldn't really smell it to begin with. Right, so let's move on to knit along and giveaway news. So knit alongs that we have currently got active is the sweater knit along that started at the beginning of the year and it runs all the way to the end of this year. So feel free to jump in at any point with whatever you're knitting. It was just a knit along to encourage myself because I had a goal to knit 6 sweaters, 6 garments this year. I've already knit 4, so I think I'm pretty set for getting 6 done this year. I'd like to get more. I would love to get 10 done this year. I think that would be my ultimate goal. But I think that might be pushing it a bit far, also considering how many designs I have going on at the moment as well. So I may not get to 10, but we will see how that goes. Then we have the Budding Bluebells KAL going on at the moment, which is for the Budding Bluebells shawl up there, and that runs until the end of June. That's been co-hosted by myself and Nicole of the Hugh Logo podcast, so make sure you go and check that out. Jump on in with that one. I've been loving seeing all the patterns and projects people have been knitting popping up on Instagram and in the group. I have been reading everything in the group. I'm so sorry. I've been been really bad at replying to people's comments, both in the group and on Instagram. I've been terrible at getting back to people's comments and replying. I've just been so busy. I've just not had enough time to just reply. I read everything. I do. I swear I do. I just don't always have time to sit down and reply. So I'm really sorry about that. And the third KAL we have going on is the Beyond Vanilla Socks KAL, which is for the Beyond Vanilla Socks pattern that I released recently, a little over a week, almost 2 weeks ago. And honestly, I have been blown away by the response to those patterns. Thank you so much to everyone who has gone out and bought the collection or bought one of the patterns, to everyone who's knitting them. Honestly, it is just, it has blown me away. I am so thankful to all of you. It has really been, it's just been great. It's been really good fun, and I'm really enjoying this whole designing process. Everything that I've been doing so far has just kind of just happened organically. There's not been any real thought behind it, but I am starting to think that I want to, make more of a conscious effort with this, and see where I can go with it and see where things lead. So thank you so much to everyone who's been so supportive so far and really given me the confidence to do what I do and to put my designs out there, because I never thought I'd be good enough, and I am really glad that you guys think otherwise. So I really, really appreciate it. So make sure you hop on over and join in that knit along if you are knitting one of the socks from that collection. And then we have the Expat Yarn KAL, and that ended last night. I actually closed the thread this morning when I got up, so you guys had a little bit of extra time to enter. And so time for some prizes, I think. And I have the prizes here in my Bahrain duty-free shopping bag. Prizes are not from Bahrain duty-free, but they're just sitting in there nice and safely. So it's going to be crinkling. I will not apologise for it. Crinkling means nice things. Fun things. Enjoy the crinkling. Okay, so we actually have 5 physical prizes for this knit along. One is going to be sent by the prize donor, which I will do first. So the first prize is by Sue of the Two Tangled Skeins podcast, and she has the Tangled Skeins CA Etsy shop. Sorry, my pen's gone funny. The Tangled Skeins CA Etsy shop, and she has donated, sorry, my mind's gone blank here, I've got notes, use my notes. She's donated a sock-sized project bag, Japanese knot bag, and a set of stitch markers. And the winner for that prize is number 10, Knitted Towel. And that's Jessamine from Texas. So she knit a pair of cabled socks that look really beautiful. So number 10, Knitted Towel, please send me a message on Ravelry. Let me know that you've seen this, and I'll put you in touch with Sue to arrange your prize. Then number 2, the second prize, is for 2 skeins of Countess of Lace lace weight. This is lace weight, yes. So there's 800 meters in each skein, so 1600 meters of lace weight yarn. You could easily knit a beautiful lacy shawl. You could either do a lace cardigan, or whatever you want really with this. You can split it up and you do 2 projects. It's really beautiful. It's called Madame Mulberry is the colorway name. And the winner of this is number 64, and that is Rose Bob, and that's Rose in the UK. So I love how UK yarn is going back to the UK. And she knit a pair of cabled mitts. So congratulations, Rose. Send me your details, send me your address, and let me know, obviously, that you've seen this, and I will get this out in the mail to you as soon as possible. The third prize is this set. It's this lovely prize package from Shannon from Inspirational Yarns. It includes some yarn on her MCN base, a project bag, a little needle book, some tea, some other little goodies in there as well. And this goes to Sensei Day, SENSEIDAI. That's Elisa, and she's from New York State, and she knit a lovely pair of socks as well. So Elisa, if you can get in touch with me with your details, and I'll get this out in the post to you as soon as I can. There are photos of all the prizes in the thread, so I'm not taking them out of the packaging. And the fourth prize is this skein of alpaca fingering weight yarn from a local to my sister-in-law's home farm, and a project bag by me. This is one of my sock size project bags. It's just folded in half. So this project bag is this size, to give you an idea. And this goes to number 170, and that is Lizzie +5. So congratulations, Lizzie. She's from Connecticut. She also knit a pair of socks. A lot of the socks in this one. So congratulations, Lizzie. Please get in touch with your address and details, and I will get this out to you as soon as possible. And the last prize is for one of my drawstring project bags. This was made out of handwoven handwoven fabric that was handwoven here in Bahrain, and the yarn is a skein of Dubai Knits yarn, which was hand dyed by my friend Josie in Dubai. And this goes to number 258, and that's Inez versus the Wall, and Inez from Portugal. So congratulations, Inez, and she knit a cotton linen blend top. So congratulations. Get in touch with me and with your details, and I'll get this out to you as well. So congratulations to everyone who won these prizes. And we had a couple of pattern prizes donated for the podcast, which I drew from the chatter thread. Sorry, I completely forgot to mention there were 285 entries for the finished objects thread. So I drew from 286 total posts. So I drew the prizes from number 2 to 286. That's what I drew from, random number generator. And then for the pattern prizes, we had the quick gift drop stitch mittens, which was donated by Michael of the Penguin Coffee Clutch podcast, and that went to post number 58, and that was and the winner of that is Midnight Yarn, and that's Angeline. So congratulations. If you get in touch with me, let me know that you've seen this, and I'll put you in touch with Michael or I'll get Michael to send you a copy of that pattern. And then the next pattern prize winner is Dam Strong 18, and that's Danielle, and so that's number 191, post number 191, and she wins a copy of the Squishalicious shawl. So congratulations, Danielle. If you get in touch with me again, I will ask Julia to send that pattern across to you. Yeah, so those were the pattern prizes, and the reason why I don't draw prizes live on the podcast is frankly because it would take too long. It takes long enough just to announce them all, but it took me over 20 minutes just to do all the prize drawings. And for the pattern drawings, the first 3 numbers that I drew were me in the comments section. I don't know how I managed to do that, and I didn't even comment that much. I specifically tried not to comment too much in the chatter thread to avoid this problem, but I guess it still happens anyway. So, right, on to the review. So like I mentioned earlier, the lovely Renee, who is East London Knit on Ravelry, has sent me a copy of her latest collection, which is the Zen Variations sweater collection that she's designed for the Fibre Company out of their Arcadia yarn, which is a DK weight yarn. So these are all DK weight patterns, and she says here on the little blurb bit for the collection, she says that it's a collection of sweaters featuring the Fibre Company Arcadia yarn, embracing the idea that knitting is a physical meditation. Mediation, not meditation. That makes no sense. It's a physical mediation. And each sweater, so every sweater starts exactly the same way with it's a top-down sending sleeve construction, and then develops with variations on the theme of Zen. And she says this, that each pattern has clean, simple lines, shows off the rustic beauty of the yarn, and she is not wrong. They are all gorgeous. They are beautiful designs. So Perry took his iPad to work today, and I completely forgot to get it off him before he left. So I just printed out the first page of each pattern just so I could show you the pictures, because I'm no good at inserting photos into the podcast. So the first one up is the Kaizen cardigan, which is this one. This is one of my favourite ones out of all of them. I really love the collar. I love the clean lines. I like I think these are faux pockets. I don't think they're real pockets at the top. I haven't actually read the pattern in detail to check, but it does have pockets at the bottom here, as you can see. It's just a very simple, clean lined cardigan. Yeah, and I think I would really love to knit this, actually. I don't have any DK sweater quantity yarn in my stash at the moment, so that's just going to have to wait a while. But this is really lovely. I really like the clean lines. I like the sporty sort of look of it. It's not overly formal, but it's is a really nice sort of casual everyday wear cardigan. And you guys know I love my cardigans. So the second one is the Yama cardigan, which is a beautiful sort of wraparound cardigan. Again, this is beautiful. It's not a style that I would particularly wear. I just don't think it would flatter my shape, but this would look really nice over a dress, I think, actually, in the summer or on a cool night. I think over a dress would be the only way I could actually wear this. But again, it's a really nice sort of colour blocking opportunity here as well. You could even do the two sides, I guess. I actually have to read the pattern to see how that would work. This may not work at all, but it would be really fun if you could do the two halves in different colours. But thinking about it now, you probably couldn't if it's an all-in-one sort of design. That wouldn't work, so ignore what I said there. But it's really, really fun. Gives you a good like I said, even between the two colours of the sleeves and the body, you can get some really fun sort of colour variations going on. Or even you could switch around. You could do grey for the body, and then if you did two different colours for the sleeves, that would be really fun as well. But really nice clean lines again. Then you've got the Takumi cardigan, which is another wrap cardigan, but this one has a slightly different variation on the theme. It's all in one colour, and you can't see it from this picture, but it is on the pattern pictures. At the back, where it ties together, it's got an interesting sort of shape going on with the ties and the shape it creates. It's very interesting. And this is obviously a longer cardigan, and this is probably more of a shape that I would wear. With 3/4 length sleeves, this goes quite nicely. I think Hugo's coming back to say hi. Ow, ow, ow. I need to trim their claws. Digging into my legs now. Sorry about that. So that's the Takumi cardigan. This is another one of my favourites. This is the Intoku tunic. This is just totally up my alley. It's really nice. I love the V-neck. I think the V-necks are really flattering. And I love how it's got the inbuilt pocket. And I can't quite tell if it's like a kangaroo pocket or if it's just individual pockets on either side, or if it's just on one side. I think there's pockets definitely on either side. But I don't think it's a kangaroo pocket. I think it's just on either side, a little pocket, which again is a really fun feature to have, and it looks like an invisible pocket as well, which is quite nice. And yeah, this one, just really beautiful lines. I really like it. I really love the simplicity of this collection and how it's all just about the yarn. Yeah, and I really love this colour as well, this sort of tealy blue. Then there's the Enso sweater, which again is a very fun sort of relaxed sweater. You can't see it very clearly because this label is covering it up, but you can sort of see here that you can tell the front and back are sort of like a high-low effect. So the front dips down, and I assume the back dips down as well. I can't tell from this picture, but this like subtle shaping at the bottom hem gives it an interesting shape as well. But another really fun, it looks like a very easy to wear jumper with a higher crew neck. And the last one, this is another one of my favourites, that if I lived somewhere colder, I would definitely knit this. And so this is the Bougie tunic. And again, really fun colour blocking options here with the pockets. If I was to knit this, I would knit this with longer body. As you go. I would knit the length longer, mostly because I'm tall and this would probably just look like an awkward length on me at this length, but I would knit it longer. I would probably knit the sleeves. Actually, I might leave the sleeves at that length. And then if I lived somewhere colder, I'd wear this as a sweater dress with leggings underneath, and it would be really warm and cozy. And I quite like the neck shape on this one as well. Sort of like a bit like a boat neck, basically. It is a boat neck, but it's just not a really wide open boat neck, which is nice. I find sometimes with boat necks they can be a little bit too wide. But yeah, I really like this one as well. So there's definitely at least 3 patterns out of the 6 that I want to knit. So really, really fun, really good collection. You can get all 6 patterns together in the collection for £15, or you can purchase them individually as well. And as I mentioned earlier in the podcast, we do have a coupon code for Renee's patterns. It is ELK Expat, and that gives you 20% off any of her patterns. And I'll pop that up. If I remember, I will pop it up again on the screen for you guys here. If I don't, it is at the beginning and it will be in the show notes. And moving on to questions and answers. First up, we have a question from Michelle, who's from Canada. She's also the host of the Maple Moose Fibers podcast. So hi, Michelle. And she asks, how do you carry your yarn when you are alternating skeins? I love hand-dyed yarns, but I struggle to carry the yarn without it puckering or being a visible change in the fabric. Is there a tutorial you follow or certain technique? Well, the way I do it is I have my 2 skeins of yarn that I'm alternating sat next to each other on the table or wherever I'm knitting, and then I try not to move them. So the way I knit around, and then it's really hard to show without explaining it, but whenever I pick up, I always pick up one strand always goes over the other, and then the other strand always goes under when you're picking up. Comes from underneath and one comes from over the top. So it just depends on which one you're pulling from. I always try and do it the same way as I'm going around. And so that way the yarns twist together as they go up. And I don't actually know which side it's on this jumper, if I can show you. Jeez, where is it? I can't remember where it is now. I specifically didn't cut the ends particularly short so I could show you. And okay, let me see if I can get it off and show you. Sorry. I did it on the inside of this one. But yeah, basically I try and twist it together, and then when I come round and pick up the next... You can't even see it because it's all hidden into the knitting. Which I guess is a good sign. Can't see it, but it's actually just on the inside here. You can see the little ends. I don't ever trim the ends completely flat. I always leave a little bit poking out on the inside, and that stops it unraveling. But it's actually just, I mean, this is the end, this is the faux seam that's put in, but it's right next to the seam is where I carry the yarn up. And I just sort of twist them around each other. When it comes to the right side, when I come back round, I just tighten the stitch underneath a little bit, and I try not to put too much tension onto the first couple of stitches from the yarn I've picked up, and that helps to stop the puckering. And every couple of rounds I sort of stop and I tug the fabric to sort of even out the tension a bit and try not to pull too tightly, because it will cause puckering otherwise. So there's no real technique that I use, I guess, is all that I can say. I'm not sure. I may try and film a tutorial on how I do it the next time I come to doing an alternating project, a project that involves alternating skeins. I don't know, I guess I kind of just figured it out myself when I first started. I'll have a look online and see if I can find a tutorial for it, actually, to see if I can post one. But I just sort of twist one yarn over the other as I go up, and I try not to pull too tight on the yarn I've just picked up, so it doesn't pull the stitch from the row below too tightly, if that makes sense. Like I said, I will try and find a tutorial. I'll make a note. And if there isn't a good one, I might try and film one soon. I won't promise when. I would be if I did do it. And the next question is from A. Hubbard, and that's Amy. Sorry. She says, hi Mina, a while ago I think you may have mentioned something about a possible Canadian KAL this summer. Did I hear that right? I have a Canadian shawl pattern I've been wanting to cast on and some Canadian yarn, but if you're going to have a KAL, I will try to wait for it. Thanks. Alright, Amy. I am not hosting the KAL myself. Sue of the Two Tangled Skeins podcast is organising, I guess, a Canadian KAL this summer. It starts on July 1st, which is Canada Day. And I believe there are a whole host of Canadian podcasters that are co-hosting this knit along. So go over to the Two Tangled Skeins podcast group, and I believe that Sue has a thread there about the KAL and information about it and who else is hosting and stuff. I'm going to be taking part as a participant because I have a bunch of Canadian yarn that I want in it as well. I'm going to be taking part as a participant rather than a host. So go and check out the thread. And yeah, so I'm sorry if I confused anybody. I think I may have not explained it correctly last time I talked about it. But I am not hosting, I am just taking part, was all I was trying to get at with that one. I would love to host it, but I'm not Canadian, so I think by default I'm exempt. But I lived in Canada for a while, so maybe I'm an honorary Canadian. Could I be? But anyway, it's fine. I'll just take part, and I hope you guys will as well if you have any Canadian yarn. I don't have a question for you guys this week, so we are going to move swiftly on to Bahrain and Middle East life. So I actually had 2 topics to talk about this week, and I've written notes out for both of them. But I think I'm just going to talk about one and keep the other one for next week, just because this podcast is getting quite long, and I don't want to babble on for ages about it. So the topic I'm going to talk about this week is about sort of off the back of what happened last week at the embassy, and the sort of prejudice and things that exist around people's understanding of the Middle East and stuff, but something a little bit different, but sort of along the same sort of themes about women's rights and how women are treated in the Middle East. It's something I get asked a lot about, and people say, oh, how could you live somewhere where women are so oppressed and blah blah blah. Quite frankly, women aren't that oppressed in the Middle East as people like to think, or people are led to believe by Western media. It's not as bad as that, but it's not the same as living in a Western country. It's not the same as living in the US or in the UK or any European country or Australia or anywhere where women have almost as much or equal freedom as men. It is not quite the same. But it is not that bad either. I mean, there are some things which are pretty bad, and some things that you're just like, oh dear, that could go badly. But for the most part, it's okay. And as long as you know the rules, you'll be fine. I think that's generally the issue that I have with people who say things like that, about, oh, aren't you scared of this or aren't you scared of that? And when we were first moving here, and I was telling people we were moving, some of my co-workers who I was working with in London were just like, oh, aren't you scared? I'm like, why would I be scared? Because what is there to be scared about? They're like, oh, well, aren't the rules like really harsh or something? I'm like, aren't the laws like really harsh? I'm like, no, they have pretty much the same laws as we have over here. You can't do certain things, and no public nudity, you don't want to. You can see where that's going, but none of that in public. But you don't do that in public here either. You don't walk around naked. You don't, It's just the punishment is harsher for those crimes. It's not, or for those actions. It's not necessarily that you'd get away with the same sort of thing over here. The only thing that's a little bit more, and I'll talk a bit more about it now, but there's certain things like, public displays of affection are generally not allowed over here. So there's no kissing in public, which was very interesting for Perry and I to get used to when we first moved to the Middle East. Now we're so used to it that when we go back to the UK or go like to America or something, it's like initially, like if I go to give him a kiss or something, he'll be like, oh, no, you can't do that. And then we're like, no, actually, I can do that here. It is okay here. So that was something to get our heads around initially. And we're not massive like PDA people anyway, but at first we were like, oh, are we even allowed to hold hands? Is that okay? Holding hands is fine. That is fine. I can give him a hug. I can even give him a peck on the cheek, and that is fine. But there's no full-on kissing in public allowed. Then I don't even know what the punishment for that would be, to be perfectly honest. I'm not even sure. I just know it's not allowed. Probably a slap on the wrist, really, and a notice. I don't know. And then what else was there? So when we first moved over to the Middle East, I had a sponsored visa under Perry's. Perry had a job when we first moved over to the Middle East, and I didn't have a job yet. So initially, my visa was sponsored through Perry's job. So the way it works is he has a job, and then he can sponsor me as his wife. So I had a housewife visa, as it goes, or a sponsored visa. So my visa in my passport said housewife, not allowed to work. Like that was literally exactly what it said in my passport. I was like, okay, great. But then I got a job. And in order to get the job, Perry had to write a letter giving me permission to work, which I thought was rather hilarious. But also a little bit sad at the same time that I needed my husband's permission to get a job. But it was only because my visa was sponsored by him. If I had waited and got my visa sponsored through my job, then that wouldn't have been a problem. And later, when Perry changed jobs, I did switch my visa to one where my company was sponsoring me. So then that was not a problem. And then, but then because of that as well, when I went to get
when I went to get my driver's license. And over there, I didn't have to take a test. I just took my British license, and they just gave me one off the back of that. I had to get a message from Perry saying that I was allowed to drive. He gave me permission to get a driving license and drive, which again, we found that quite funny and thought that was hilarious because of just how ridiculous it sounds. But it is a little bit, when you think about it, really, it is quite sad that sort of thing is still necessary, and that is actually legal over there, that is law, that's a requirement, that I had to have that letter. It didn't have to be a long letter. It was literally just 2 lines saying, "Hi, my name is Perry, and yes, I give permission for my wife to drive." Along those lines. Just seems a bit silly, really, that you need that. But, it is what it is. And then it was actually quite funny because when Perry first started working in Saudi Arabia, we were still living in Dubai, but his visa had expired. And so I got in touch with, there's a specific person at each company, or sometimes they're only part-time, but it's a specific person who works for each company who deals with visas and these sort of government-related coordination stuff, and they're called PROs, public relations officers. And so I got in touch with our company's PRO, and I asked him if I could sponsor my husband's visa. So kind of like how he sponsored my visa when we first moved over as his wife, I could sponsor his visa with him as my husband. So, and I'd looked into this initially when we first moved over, trying to figure out what sort of visa I would go for. And I remember seeing somewhere about how recently they changed the laws in the UAE where a wife could sponsor their husband's visa. Before, you weren't allowed to do that, that wasn't allowed. But in the last few years, that had been changed. And there were some specific specific things that you had to hit in terms of, you had to have a certain level of income, you had to be certain level qualified, you had to have certain things in place to be able to do that. And thankfully, I hit all those markers without a problem. So with with the PRO's help, I got all of that done, and it was really quite funny. I went into do the paperwork and stuff, and then because it was so strange, not many people actually do it. When I went to the immigration centre to do it, they were like, "No, you have to go speak to the head of immigration to get his permission first before you can do this, before you can proceed with the application, because it's doesn't happen very often." And at the time, I had a broken leg, so I was hobbling around on crutches trying to do this. In the end, got it done. It wasn't a problem, but it was just really funny because they were all just like, "You want to sponsor your husband's visa? You do realise that means he can't work here." I'm that's not a problem because he doesn't work in Dubai as it is. At the time, he was working in Saudi Arabia, so it wasn't an issue. And he's had a couple of funny looks about it as well. I mean, that visa's expired now, but it was just really funny because it was so strange to everyone over here to have it done that way. And then what else? Well, there's the dress code thing, which isn't really a big issue. I've talked about this before on the podcast. I actually tend to dress more conservatively over here in Bahrain than I did necessarily in Dubai. Not that I wore anything particularly skimpy in Dubai as it was. I don't do that anyway. But I'm much more aware of what I wear over here. Only because it's a more conservative environment. People generally dress more conservatively. So I just try and dress the same, if that makes sense. I could wear whatever I wanted, within reason, obviously. But the issue with that is I would end up feeling more self-conscious because everyone would be looking or staring, and it's just something that happens anyway. But I'd rather not give people more reason to stare, if that makes sense. Other things to note: living with your partner when you're not married is not legal. It's not allowed. You're technically not supposed to do that. I mean, I'm not sure about over here. I'm not sure how well it's policed over here, but in Dubai anyway, it wasn't very strictly policed. We knew plenty of people who lived together before they got married. So it's not really a heavily enforced rule, I guess. It should be the best way to put it. But getting pregnant outside of marriage, that big no-no. The general consensus is if you find out you're pregnant and you're not married, get out of the country. Get out of the country, because if you go see a doctor, then they are obliged to report it, and that is not good. Don't want to do that. And that is technically a criminal offence. You can be a single mum or have children outside of wedlock when you move to the Middle East, but you're not allowed to have children outside of marriage over there. It is technically a criminal offence. Abortion is not allowed either. Abortions are only done under certain situations, basically if the mother's life is at risk, or the child is not viable, or there are certain very specific conditions in which case an abortion would be allowed. Usually, and most commonly, it's only because if the mother's life is at risk. But otherwise, it's not allowed. So the general consensus is don't get pregnant if you're not married. Or if you do, don't stay there very long afterwards. So that's a difficult one to deal with. There was an instance with one of Perry's, one of the women on Perry's team at work where he works now. Last year she was pregnant and she was going in for like a planned C-section at the hospital. And Perry got a very frantic series of text messages from her saying that there was something wrong with the insurance company, that the insurance weren't going to approve the procedure, and the hospital wouldn't admit her or do the procedure because the insurance information had been put in wrong and she was put down as being single rather than married, and so they were just like, well, technically you shouldn't be having a baby if you're not married. But what happened was the guy at Perry's work, who was responsible for sorting out everyone's medical insurance, had made a mistake on her application and put her down as single rather than married. And so she was about to give birth and wasn't able to do so because of an insurance mess up. So rightfully, Perry got very angry at this guy, made him go into the office on the weekend and fix the problem. And he did. It all got fixed. It was fine in the end. And she had the baby, all okay. But it's just one of those things where you're just like, something so simple, something that's such a simple mistake as being put down as single instead of married, a miss instead of a Mrs., could cause such a massive problem. That's a little bit scary to think about as well, to be honest. But it's just one of those things, I guess, that it's something that comes with living in this region and frankly, if you are going to be living in this region or moving to this region, you should do your research. You should learn about where you're going to be living. You should learn about the country where you're living. You should learn about their rules and how they affect you before you make that move, because ignorance can only get you, you can only get away with ignorance for so long, and it gets to a point where, frankly, you should know better. And before we moved to Dubai, neither of us had been to Dubai before, or the Middle East. I mean, I'd been to Iran, but other than that, I hadn't really been anywhere else in the Middle East before. It's just one of those things. I spent weeks researching before we moved. I had spent weeks researching and learning about the place, and Perry didn't have much time for that, but I did it for us, and I knew all the information that we needed to know before we moved, and I told him what he needed to know. But it's just one of those things that you should just, if you're going to move to another country, you really should do your research and learn about the customs and the culture and the rules and the things that are important before you go, I think. I just think that's, I don't know, I just think that's something that people should do. People should, if you're moving to another country, you should be aware of what culture you're moving to, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, I guess we'll move on now to a bit of a week in review. So last week, the weather, amazing. It was lovely. The temperatures dropped. It was still mid-30s centigrade, mid-90s Fahrenheit, but it was lower than it is usually at this time of the year. It was really low by comparison, and it was really lovely, really nice. It was still hot to be outside, but it was bearable. It wasn't too humid. It was just really lovely. This week, it is hot. It is sticky. It is disgusting. The temperatures are now in the mid-40s centigrade, so that's over 110 degrees Fahrenheit. It is hot. It is humid. I did laundry the other day. We have an outside laundry room. And it was just so hot and humid in there because there's no air conditioning. It's a little room just outside in our back garden. It's just not fun. Perry got back from London last weekend, and it was really funny because he was saying how in the UK, obviously in the Northern Hemisphere, further north than where we are, it's starting to get dark really late at night now because you're getting into the summer, so you've got longer daylight hours, and with daylight savings as well added to that, he was saying it was really messing with him because he's not used to it being dark, being light late at night. Over here, it's never, throughout, we don't do daylight savings. And throughout the year, because we're quite far south, we're quite close to the equator, we don't have, the daylight hours doesn't change that much throughout the year. Like in the winter, we only have maybe 1 or 2 hours less daylight than during the summer. So the fluctuation isn't that much. In the winter, it's dark by like 5 o'clock, whereas in the summer, it might be dark by 6:30. So it really doesn't change a huge amount throughout the year. So it's always dark in the evenings. Whereas in the UK, he was saying he was out with some of his classmates and stuff, and then he was like, oh, okay, I should get home before it gets too late. And then he realizes it's like 9:30 p.m. already, and he's just like, well, where did the evening go? Like, what happened? Like, I'm not, like, he thought it was only 6:30 or 7, and suddenly it turns out it's actually, no, it's almost 10. So that was sort of messing with him a little bit. And he was saying how he almost got sunburnt one day, which I always find hilarious. Whenever we go back to the UK over the summer, Perry always manages to get sunburnt, which makes everyone laugh because we live in a desert with year-round sunshine, yet we never get sunburnt here because we always make a conscious effort to avoid the sun and not get burnt. Whereas when we go back to the UK, you don't ever expect it to be hot enough to get sunburnt. Really quickly about Perry again, they had a work lunch event yesterday, and he sent me a message being like, they were just giving away prizes at work for like through a raffle thing, and someone just won a goat, and it had a ribbon on its head. Why does that not surprise me anymore? Like, yes, because this is where we live. We live in a region where a goat is a live goat is a prize at a raffle. That goat will likely be dinner at some point for someone's family. But anyway, moving on from that. Then Ramadan is actually starting next week. It's currently scheduled to start on the 2nd of on Tuesday, which I think is the 7th. Yeah, Tuesday the 7th is due to start. And it runs for a month. And I think next week I'll probably talk a bit more about Ramadan. And that was the other topic I was going to talk about this week, but I think I'll leave that for next week. I'll talk a bit more about Ramadan, what it's like living through Ramadan in the Middle East, how things change, and stuff like that. But so yeah, the actual start date, I think like I say, it's meant to be Tuesday, but it all depends on the moon sighting committee. And yes, there is a committee of people who are responsible for sighting the moon and declaring when Ramadan starts and ends, because it is based on the moon and the lunar calendar. Other than that, the only other thing to talk about was Derek. This week I noticed, end of last week, I noticed he had a patch on one of his lips, and his lips are all black, but a patch had gone like a pink colour, like it lightened up quite a lot, and it was like a little blob on his lip. And it didn't, at the time I couldn't tell, like he doesn't really like to sit still very long when you like want to look at something on his face, but I couldn't tell if it was just discoloration or if it was any swelling or anything there. So I made him an appointment at the vet's to take him in. I took him in on Sunday, and he'd actually, the day before, he threw up a lot of food. Like, he vomited a lot. He never vomits like that. He gets hairballs and like the usual stuff like that, but he hasn't vomited food like that for a long time in that quantity. Usually if he vomits food, it's because he's eaten too quickly, and nothing else. It's not been an issue, but this was like quite a lot. So I took him into the vet, and she checked him out, and she said she gave him a deworming tablet. She said more often than not that could be something to do with that. And even though they don't go outside, we go outside and we traipse stuff in and out the house, and he could have picked up something. And then we also got a little something to give Hugo when I got back home, so that was fun. But she said the lip, and she said it's actually swollen, and you could see his upper lip on that side as well was swollen. And I hadn't noticed before, but when she pointed it out, you could see it. And she said that's likely an allergy, probably to plastic or something in his food, something he's eating. Or it could be like a bacterial thing that he's picked up from somewhere. So their food bowls for their wet food is metal, and those get cleaned every day. But their dry food bowls, I did have some ceramic bowls for them, their dry food, but they broke a while back. And so I switched back to some plastic bowls that we'd had. and I'd been meaning to replace them, but I hadn't found anything that I'd liked. So it was just one of those things that we'd kept putting off. And she said it's quite likely to be an allergy to plastic, which is something I'd heard about before, and I know a couple of other people whose cats have allergies to plastic. So switch those out to some metal bowls for now. And the vet said to put him on a strictly hypoallergenic dry food diet for the next month to see if it gets better. And she said if it doesn't get better within the next couple of weeks, then to take him back in and they'll do a biopsy to check to see if there's anything else. So fingers crossed it's not anything more serious. And unfortunately, Hugo also has to go on this diet because I can't control whose food they eat. Derek tends to eat Hugo's food anyway, so they both have to eat the same thing, which I feel really bad about for Hugo because the poor guy has no issues. But needless to say, the boys are not happy about this. They are not happy about the situation. They do not like the fact that they cannot eat wet food. In the evenings, they just give me these like the big round eyes and they meow at me, and every time I walk into the kitchen they run after me really, really excited, hoping that they're going to get food. And the last couple of days I've been cooking chicken for dinner, so as I'm preparing the chicken they're just at my feet staring at me like, I want the chicken. And I feel so bad and I feel so guilty because I can't give them anything. I'm not allowed to because it is not fun. Poor kittens. I feel really bad. Derek is definitely not happy about it. He makes his displeasure very well known. He walks around the house meowing really loudly. But anyway, it's for his own good. And fingers crossed he gets better and he'll be able to be back on the wet food sooner rather than later. But thank you so much to everyone who posted some really interesting and useful tips and comments in the Instagram post when I posted about that a couple of days ago. Really appreciate it. Sorry I haven't had a chance to get back to everyone. Like I said, I've been really bad at that lately. So apologies for that. And I think I will leave that here for this week. So please stop on by the Ravelry group, join the conversation there, join in some of the knit-alongs. And thank you so much for joining me this week. Until next time, happy knitting. Bye.